Boom. 1990s. Welcome, gatekeepers. How y'all doing? Whoa, I got all these notifications going off. We're good. We're good. So, I apologize if the internet is a little shaky. It's going up all the way up and it's going all the way down. It's going all the way up and down. You know what? Ups and downs. What it's all about. Hello, Vixen Doe. How are you, honey? So glad, Ian, that you graced us with your us. What do you Serbs with your glowing presence. I appreciate you being here, my friend. Hello, Froze Moments. I miss picking movies out as well. I do. I do. And Bobby, thank you so much for being here. Yes, I've seen you in the chats too, so it's fun. You know, those two that you mentioned we were talking about, and it's it's funny over the years, and I'm sure you can understand what I'm saying here, even though I'm talking a little coded, kind of more in Morse code, kind of, you know what I mean? That the people that you filtered through at the end of like 7 years, because that's how long, because it's been a long, crazy trip. And still, even, you know, you have a couple people here, you know, because like I could say Monkey Works, and, you know, it's like, absolutely, that's the go to for this, that, you know, go to for that. But there's been so many people that have just or imploded or shifted or got shady, or you know what I'm saying. And it's just funny who the cream that's kind of lasted to the top, and even that's a little curdled, you know. So you have to discern for yourself. Welcome in, UFO Bigfoot. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. So, and Lindsay, good to see you, sweetie. I love you so much. So try not to focus. These lights are absolutely too bright. Please, 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 StreamYard. Please, everybody just focus for a moment and agree with me on this. StreamYard, dark mode, dark mode, dark mode, dark mode. Remember that story we saw of all the psychics had a psychic class, and she got all her students together and said, look, you know, I've had it up here with the serial killer. Let's just make him turn himself in. You remember that? Yeah, you agree, Bobby? This is what I'm saying. And some of the biggest ones, you know, I'll look at them, go, aren't you supposed to be? You know, and I'm like, so what's all this weak? What's all this shaky stuff? What's all this, you know, women do? You know, I thought we were, you know, it's crazy. Anyway, I can't stand that. You know, just look, admit it. Say, I don't know. If you're wrong, say you were wrong. I mean, what happened to that? You know? The character that, you know, and those silent people just want to be left alone, and can they're hearing your BS. They don't want any of it. They're full up, you know, and they're just staying quiet. Kind of like that guy. What was that movie? Gone in 60 Seconds, I think. I could be wrong. And it was a character named Sphinx. And he wouldn't say anything. He was real big and quiet, and everybody thought he just didn't talk, like he was a mute. And at the end of the movie, he just said this really profound thing. Everybody, because he never talked. He only spoke when he had something profound to say. Anyhow, these people, you know, and the toughest little ones, I'll tell you, people surprise you. I had going through basic. There was this little young lady, and she was probably 90 pounds soaking wet. Same ruck, she carried the same, she marched the same steps, same boots, same everything. Hello, Uncommon, welcome in, thank you for being here. Anyhow, you know, just never underestimate, you know, or overestimate size. It's what's in here, it's character, it's the power that, you know, sorry about that, I didn't mean to make all that noise on the mic, but anyway. That being said, welcome in tonight. Yes, I'm still doing the 1990s, and this is why. You saw the flashes, the stuff, the movies. I miss picking out movies, going to Best Buy. Hey, Scott's Life. Hey, honey. And happy Father's Day, first and foremost, to anybody out there. If you're a father, you know, that God bless you. Thank you. Hope your day was wonderful. And if you're a dad, thank you, because there's a difference. And happy Dad's Day, you know. And I guess if we have time at the end of tonight, if somebody reminds me, I'll tell you the little bit about my paranormal, supernatural, kind of wild experience with my dad. But you've heard it before. I'll see if I can come up with a short version. But I really probably have more stories with my dad after death than I do before. It's one of those kind of things. Last time I saw him, I was probably 3, and he died when I was 18. You know, you know, you piece it together. You know what I mean? But stories, pieces and parts, and things that you learn, and then things that you learn after the fact has just been, again, if you're paying attention, if you're listening, the dead are our best teachers, or those that have crossed over and come back and tell us. And you wonder, why are all these stories similar, so common, so they have all these common threads? But, it's all coincidence. It's not true. So anyway, dark mode on the, let's pray that into happening, or just manifest it. And these 90s. So we're going through all this, picking out movies. Could you pick the best movies of 1990s? We had a couple in there. That's just a smattering. Hey, Jack, welcome in. I'm so glad you're here. You love this subject, and you're so good with throw the stuff out there. And please do that tonight, folks. Welcome in. If I've missed you, calling you out, I hope to see you in here, and I'll catch up. But that's the thing. We all have the memories of that time. And no matter what you were doing at that time, you picked up the headlines. You picked up the OJ trial, And I'm looking through the 90s, and, I'm thinking of all the things I want to talk about or bring to the forefront, chunking out of it. It's such an amazing time. And you wonder where you were and where I was. I was busy. I was working. I was raising kids. And I was, So if it was something they were interested in, I'll know more about it. Micro Machines, Ninja Turtles, the Transformers, of course, the Batman stuff, and those things, and the Segas, and all of that, Game Boy, and Home Alone, and you just remember where you were with your kids when you saw and experienced those things, and you went to the movies and you saw Independence Day, and you went and you saw whatever Micro Machines. Oh my God, I love Micro Machines so much. They were almost as cool as full-size G.I. Joes. Those are my absolute favorite, hands down, all day long. I think I told you last week or the week before, best Christmases was G.I. Joe Christmases, where you everywhere I looked, I was going to get ready to be hit by a sniper or something had a grenade coming at me. I was getting surprised and ambushed all day long, by my boys, because they got lots of G.I. Joes. It was wonderful. I got them too. And my rule was, if I find it, I get to keep it. So you better watch your stuff and pick up your little grenades and your little Claymore mines and all that, Police your area. Because if I get it, I'm keeping it, because I like to collect too. I had the other day, Mario was watching. It was a commercial. I can't remember what it was, but it was Hot Wheels, and it was the history of Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars and stuff. How cool! And I can remember when I was a kid, I had a ton of Hot Wheels, and I had the orange track, and I had the loop to loop. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like letting one of them cars go, and you get it just right to where it take that whole hoop. And then it goes through the little flipper. So, what? That was amazing. It was amazing. It was way better than the 70s. What was that thing? It was electronic football, and all it really was this like big. It almost looked like a hockey rink, or I think they had hockey too. But anyway, they'd have these things that stand up, and you just turn it on, and it would vibrate, and it was all these magnets. It was stupid. Hot Wheels thing, man. You could go down to the Toys R Us or the Two Guys or the Kmart or whatever, and when they got their shipment, you'd start going through all of the cars trying to get the right one. Get you a Barracuda or a Mustang, or there's nothing like it, And then you go over. I went over to my cousin's house, and he had like 50 times more tracks than I did, and all kinds of, the car wash, he'd go in, and, all that kind of stuff. He had all the, it was one of those kids. Crack ups. I don't remember crack ups. Was that a game? Was that like lawn darts or something? It was like, I almost hesitate to ask, because it could be many things. 1996, Vixen. Wow, on the Scottish rolls, yeah. You're Murdoch on the Scottish rolls, right? I know it's there. I know my brothers often talked about it. 96. Mine was, making me think now, 81, year after I graduated high school. Summer of. Died in Greece. I was in Jersey, America, you know. So it was crazy. Gosh, it was crazy. It was so crazy to be in the house by myself. So unusual. And to pick up that phone and get that message. And I had to tell everybody else. And I'm like, who am I, Be telling everybody. What was damaged, pros? Trying to figure it out. Hold on. I don't know. Can you clarify? Do I need to know? Should I continue? G.I. Joes were all executed for treason. Yeah. My Barbies were G.I. Joes. G.I. Joes. I have my other one here. She's around here somewhere. There she is. You want to see my G.I. Joe? Hold on, I'll get it. The son gave me this. She's badass. Hold on. I hope I don't shut everything off. If Ted was here, I'd tell him to put on the seatbelt. I'm sign, okay. Pushing buttons, pushing buttons. Come on. Get your head gear. Come on, girl. Police yourself up. There she is. Oh, girl. Ain't she cool? It's the kind of Mother's Day presents I get. Isn't that wonderful? She goes with my Demi Claymore mines and all my other stuff. But she's just cool. But yeah, G.I. Joes, and then they shrunk them all down. I forget, was that the 90s when they shrunk them down and made them small, and they weren't cool anymore, But they pushed them. I think that was around the time of the Turtles. But something else that was real big back then. I can remember the micro machines. That's what I wanted to tell you. The micro machines commercial. Do you remember the guy who spoke really, really fast? Like Eminem would go, man, that guy talks fast. Key cars. I don't remember key cars. The ones that the big key in the back end that you wind and let it go. It's for like a 50s things. Hang on. Let's see what you're saying here. Well, it's just had to have that old electric football game. Had mine with some of my favorite teams in the yeah. There you go. I think the time I played with it was probably more in the 70s, so it must have come out in the early 70s, mid 70s or something. 80s, froze, yeah. Navajo Code Talker G.I. Joe. Oh, did you, Vix? Oh, gosh, I would love to have that one. Oh, I'm so jealous. You don't have it anymore? I take that over a whole garbage bag full of Beanie Babies. Some stuff you just keep because it's cool. It was so easy to get caught up. Steve and I were talking about this last week, and then I'll show you what I got to show you. It's good. It's going to be a fun night. I'm glad you're here. Hang in there. Get you some popcorn. I've got you some cool stuff to talk about that you may have heard of. Maybe not. Maybe you knew of, but you forgot about it. We forget. Because like you could say like John Benet Ramsey, you go, oh man, I remember how big that was. What a hard crime, and still a mystery. And so many accusations and things back and forth and, terrible. So many angles on that one was just wrong. Got my Tigger cup tonight. Hope you're feeling a Tigger. For all the dads out there, hope you had a great day. So it was so easy to get caught up in the collection is what I was saying. There was the cards, there was the Pokemons, there was the Pogs and all that stuff. So I saw that, through the boys' eyes. I can't imagine what it was like if you had all girls. I would imagine there'd be Disney stuff in there. I can't remember what princess was out that. I think it was like Pocahontas, and that might even have been before they ever started putting all the different princesses. Who can keep up? And Lord knows what's going on now, so I just don't want to look. So, I mean, I'm just saying, why do I want to see that? I see enough stuff. So, it's crazy. So you had Pocahontas and you had I think Aladdin, so you had Jasmine, and that's about as far as I can go. I know Lion King, and that was like the coolest stuff. And Aladdin was pretty cool. And I remember they had the Sega Aladdin game and all the apples and stuff. And I couldn't make it over the first three jumps. You know, I was terrible. I was busy. I had laundry to do. I had to go to work. I had to get a uniform. You know, it's crazy. So I remember spurts of some of the 90s, but the ones that stick out to me is, of course, the OJ trial. I saw every bit of it. I could do that off the top of my head. I know that's a bold statement, but if anybody would like to challenge me, go ahead. What do you got? You know, bowl of popcorn, a bottle of whiskey. What you got? Just put it up, because I could go a good couple hours on that trial off the top of my head. That's how much I studied that, how much I watched it, paid attention, read all the books, did all the things, went down all the rabbit holes, you know, including the most recent ones. So I'm not going to do it because it's depressing. And what's the point? You know, if I'm going to do something like that, I'm going to do JFK. So moving on, you know, those two. And then you've got like the Unabomber, and blurt them out if you remember now, because we're talking about from 1990 to 1999. A lot of stuff happened, right? The Oklahoma bombing, you've got the Columbine, Waco, definitely Waco. You had Waco, you had Ruby Ridge, back to back, right? What else? The riots, yeah, the LA riots, no kidding. What's his name? Rodney King. Yep. First Gulf War. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Waco. Absolutely. Yep. Froze. Yep. Mm-hmm. Garbage Pail Kids cards. I remember those. I don't know if it was 90. Was that 90s? Oh, jeez, that's crazy. I remember those some things. Garbage Pail. You know what I had? Jack, keep putting them down there. I'll catch up. Just blurt them out. 90s. You know, put it out there. Maybe it was a big movie that we forgot to talk about. You know, we mentioned Jurassic Park and Titanic and Twisters and Total Recall and so many of them. I found a couple tonight we hadn't talked about yet. Candyman, remember that one? Of course, we're trying to stay in the horror, haunted, you know, ghost, true crime, conspiracy kind of genre, because, you know, we start mentioning rom-coms and stuff like that. We'll be here all night. When year did Practical Magic come out? Anybody know? That was early 90s, wasn't it? I know The Craft was. Witches, I think that came out around that time. Speaking of which, oh, see what I did there? That was by accident. There's no coincidences. Ron Murphy is going to be on next weekend, I believe. I'll have to check my calendar. And we're doing Witches. And Ron likes to dive deep. Oh, shocker. That was such a good one. That's one of my son's, my oldest son's favorite movies. And when that came out, he would have been, you know, depending on, it was early 90s, wasn't it? He would have been probably about 7. I know, it was Freddie, all of that. None of that bothered him. So I know I'm a terrible mother. There was some stuff I would not let my kids watch, not let them get the video game. You know, it's like they never got Grand Theft Auto because of the whole, you could, you know, smack a hooker or whatever. I just don't like that. You know, come on. Zombies, okay. You know, Hitman, okay. You know, they had it coming. Fallen, oh, that was so good. All right, I'm gonna let a couple more come in, and then we'll put them up on screen. But yeah, what else? You know, these different big occurrences that happened during that time. And like I said, I've got a couple I'm going to pull here. But, you know, when you think about the Transformers or Power Rangers, and then it starts reminding you of all these other things that interwove that into your, you know, your timeline, you know, and at the same time, you know, OJ's going on and this is going on. And, you know, of course, this is my timeline. I have no idea what yours is or how you experienced it. But that's how I can remember, you know, I took the kids and we sat at the theater and we saw this. It was a big deal, you know. I can remember taking the Titanic. It was a very big deal because, as I've stated on this program many times, you know, I really think he's reincarnated from somebody that went down with that ship, or had something to do with it, because he was just at an extremely early age. All the things when you're a kid, and you're recognizing stuff, and you're saying things that you shouldn't even know about, let alone recognize them in a book at the library, and open it and start, hey, yeah, that was the dinnerware that we had over there on second class or something like that. Different things like that he would say. So when we went and saw Titanic, it was a profound experience. That and Saving Private Ryan, we all went and saw that because we were all into, one way or another, into war movies, and we all each had our thing. We were all into the Civil War, but my oldest, the one with the Titanic thing, is very much World War II minded, and and Civil War. And to the point of when he was in the third grade, they had some visiting. I'll never forget. This was great. And he was so very cool when he told me the story, because he had to tell me it happened in school, and he had to, yeah, what'd you do in school today? One of those, you're getting dinner or whatever. And he said they had visitors, they had an assembly, and they had World War II veterans come in and talk about World War II to all the kids, third grade. Hey, Derek, how you doing, sweetie? Welcome in, welcome in. So he's answering a couple questions because he knows this stuff. He knows this stuff. You want to sit down and talk the movie Longest Day or whatever, and he's right there. So it got to the point where he was like the only one raising his hand. There was a couple others. So it got to be where, like, you're at the point where you're waiting and you want to give somebody else the chance. It was one of those. And finally, it just said, screw it, because he knew the answer. So he told me, he says, forget it. They don't know. They don't know. So he held up his hand. And the question was about a guy pulled vet pulled out of his pocket a little clicker. And he just pulled it out of his pocket. He went, he said, does anybody know what this is? And they look around the room. It's dead silence and just empty faces and just, kids, third grade. Wait. And finally, my son said, I couldn't stand it anymore. And he did it a couple more times, and he just like this. And finally, by that time, the guys were laughing because obviously this kid's a fan, and which is an odd thing to say about a war. I get it. Don't send me letters. So he finally gets called on, and he says, well, it's, they handed those out to all the soldiers that they were going to drop behind enemy lines so they could find each other. And it was like a little secret code, kind of like when Native Americans, he's really saying all this, kind of like when Native Americans, like the Navajo code talkers there, had signals in the woods, mimicking certain birds and animals. He said, but there was a problem, wasn't there? He goes, do you know what that was? And he goes, like this. He goes, say it, son. It's okay. Say it. I'm glad, and they were laughing. And he blurted out, he goes, well, it sounded just like the bolt action rifle on the enemy. So when they did that, they stood up and thought, hey, and they'd stand up and think it was their friend or their brother or their, fellow soldier from the squad. And it wasn't. It was a German with the rifle pointed right at their chest because it sounded the same. And they were just so bad. Like, that was his day, man. That's kind of cool. Good for him. So I guess that's my mom, who had to be a Father's Day story about my son, and how proud I was of both of them, because they're smart like that. When your kid has a boy or girl has that interest, and they dig in early, whether it's microbiology and under oceanography, or whether it's whatever, it's like it seems like it's early. It might morph, but it's always ingrained in their quilt of life. It's very interesting, and it's cool when you're a parent and you still get the chance to catch those things. And it's unconscionable and a damn shame when parents don't if they get caught up, or again, or some personalities just don't want to dig deep into that kind of thing. They're kind of surface people and maybe miss some of those things. So if you have that chance with kids or grandkids, or even looking back on your memories and to know some of the things that were really important, it's little times like that. It is the GI Joes. It is this kind of stuff. It is the movies you shared and the books you read and things like that. I can remember summers by the books I read. I don't know if you have the same similar experience or not. Okay, we got a couple of good ones here. Here we go. Highlander, loved it. Of course, loved it. Wonderful. Freebie, is that an app or is that a movie? I don't know, Ian. I'm sorry. I don't recall on that one. Let's see. Don't tell Mom Babysitter's Dead. Glory is an excellent movie. Ugly Kid Joe, Motley Crue. Let me see. Garth Brooks. Fallen. Oh, such a good movie. If you guys haven't seen Fallen after all the things we've talked about, you need to see it because that is extremely accurate. It's accurate. Toxic Avenger. I don't remember that one. I remember hearing about it, not seeing it. Waco for sure. Yeah. Okay, I think I caught up there. Shocker. Yeah. What does anybody know what year that was? Oh yeah, Wes Craven movies. Oh gosh. Pretty cheesy now. Yeah. Oh, but The Thing, when did that come out? That was before the 90s. It had to be. But The Thing, that's one of the best ones. And gosh, too many to mention. Army of Darkness, yeah. GoBots, Doors, Val Kilmer, yeah. Dick Tracy, wasn't that an odd one though? Wasn't there a lot of weird stuff going on with that Dick Tracy? Wasn't like Madonna in that or something? There was a lot of plastic mask stuff going on, very avant-garde. Saw Addams Family at the drive-in. Yeah. Yep, Happy Father's Day. Yeah, it had to be the 70s, kiddo, because I can remember people I was with, at the time of the game, and when I didn't see that person anymore, we moved or something like that. So I could kind of, the 70s and the 80s, I can kind of pinpoint. I start losing it in the 90s because I was a mom with like probably 3 jobs raising 2 kids. So. Oh, yeah. Yep. Public Enemy, NWA, Ice Cube, Tupac shot. Biggie, all of that stuff going down the East Coast, West Coast, all that stuff. Yep. Beastie Boys. Yep. Oh gosh, Beastie Boys. I'm from Jersey, so Yellow Soul, Crisscross, yeah. Crisscross with their stuff on House of Pain. Yeah. Yep. So many things. Wow. Yep. Debbie Gibson. Oh, I thought you said Debbie Gibson. Hold on. Let me straighten this out. Oh, Signs. Oh, gosh, what a great movie. Wasn't that good? Swing Away. Yeah. Gosh, so many great quotes out of that. So many cool things. I mean, when they're all picking the food because it's their last meal and Mel Gibson's trying so hard. And gosh, there's when she's pinned against the tree. I mean, have you ever seen such a heart-wrenching? You talk Jack and Rose and the door on the Titanic wasn't as bad as Mel Gibson's wife pinned to that tree. X-Files. Yep. Bats. Was that a movie? Second Quantum Leap. Point Break. Oh gosh, yeah, that's a good one. Quantum Leap. Yeah. Night Flyer. Oh gosh, you want to talk about, and Knight Rider too. Night Flyer was such a great from book to movie rendition with Jose Ferrer, and just the way, I'll tell you what, when I read the book, the short story, I forget which one it was. I think it was a short story at the time. I think it was Like the Body. But anyway, when he gets to the point where he's in the men's room and he just knows there's somebody else in that men's room with him, and he knows there's a vampire out there that's kind of stalking him because he's, he went after the vampire. Now the vampire's kind of after him, and he's in that men's room, and he can hear steps and the echo, that acoustics of that, that tile in that men's room. And then all of a sudden he knows that it's walking by him. He can hear it. And this invisible vampire is walking by him. It goes up to the urinal, and you hear the zipper, and then all you see is blood shoot up against the back of the urinal and slides down, and that was it. And it's bad enough, the visual, but when you read that and you're into the book, that was one of the most wild horror sections of a short story ever for me. That one hit me. I was like, whoa. That was like when I took the Amityville horror book and had to put it outside my bedroom because I'd read about the priest going home and it was still affecting him, and then it just hit him, and the priest knew he was in trouble, and at that moment, bam, that was it. It's like, oh man, it can, when you're in the paranormal supernatural and you're young, and you're just learning, and some of those puzzle pieces snap in place, it can be profound. It can be life-changing, because it's just, sometimes it goes against everything that you believed up until that point, and just does a complete 180. And sometimes it just validates everything in one pow, and it's profound. It can go either way, multiple times. From Dusk Till Dawn, great flick, absolutely. In that movie, there was probably a lot of moments like that, but for me, Scott, it was when they pulled back at the end and all the trucks were in the off the cliff there. It's just wasteland, this junkyard of all of these people that they had killed and eaten, that were on the road, and they're all truck drivers and cars and station wagons, and you can just imagine as the scene pulls away, and you can just, all of the years and decades of them doing this out in that desert, that faraway bar, the vampire bar. That was an intense flick. Really was. Selma Hayek was just, she made herself in that one. And then did she do that one after the one with Antonio Banderas? One with Antonio Banderas was Desperado. Excellent flick if you haven't seen it. And I have an excellent flick for you. Well, I don't want to say excellent flick. I don't want to oversell it, that's for sure. But I have an interesting one that we're going to get to talk about here. But all right, so we thought back on our own, a couple of things we remembered. Original Species, yes. And welcome in Crimson Dawn. Shutter Island. I saw that in the theater. Not bad. In a Dark Place, Fire Marshal Bill. Living Color was just fabulous back then. It really was. Yeah. Jim Carrey, boy, what a talent, huh? He's something else. Night Before Christmas. Watchers, yeah. I remember that one. Is that when Prophecy came out with Christopher Walken as well? I think it did. M. Night's daughter is the director of which film? M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong. Okay, well, just as a real quick little, let's see if I can. Boy, I got buttons to push tonight, folks. All prayers and well wishes accepted. This one, something that I kind of forgot about a little, didn't forget, I mentioned it, but I wanted to pay it a little extra homage, because talking about being connected to timelines and decades through your kids' eyes, I told you a cool story last week about it, and there's just not enough time to tell all the stories between my oldest and, Art Bell, and how much he was into UFOs and aliens. I mean, he would go around and put alien stickers on, things. He was that guy, putting them on poles in different places. And always aliens and Art Bell and that Coast to Coast. And he really liked John B. Wells and the other one I like. I can't recall his name right now, but one of the good hosts over there, and could sit and quote you on. It's the same one with the World War II, all the different alien stuff and all it's just amazing as a young kid. And so when you see it through all those different eyes, as a family or whatever. Frighteners, oh, such an excellent movie, Crimson. I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And I think in a lot of ways got quite a bit of it kind of right, you know, in my opinion. But again, there's another great example of Midnight in the Desert. Yeah, absolutely. Um, of another movie that was put out, like Sixth Sense, like Ghost. Ghost was released then. That was another one that got a lot of stuff right. They had that little funny overtones and stuff like that. But him trying to do the penny and trying to learn how to kick the can and how to think it to happen rather than over trying and all this other stuff. So many things, in my opinion, got it right. So, but this little tidbit here was, I think, did just as much for horror and the horror genre and um, the imagination and the creativity and kind of also made little paranormal investigators and people that are interested in the stuff we're interested in, because started them out real early in a real fun way, and the way it hit the market and the way it was marketed at the timing and the release of it was brilliant. If you know the story behind the Ninja Turtles, was kind of like that. Last Mohicans. Oh gosh, that's one of my top 3 favorites. Absolutely. Thanks, Uncommon. The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Yeah, I remember that. It's just so funny. Um, yeah, this one had a profound effect, and I think it had just as much as effect on the paranormal, supernatural, and the expansion of the minds of young minds and people that are interested in this. And I think it also gave a lot of good conversation for people that took advantage of that, parents and people that had kids that were starting to read, had the opportunity to introduce them and also introduce them into the knowledge and foundation of how much power they have over all of the monsters and things that go bump in the night and the thing in your closet and under the bed. And because it put it on the front porch and gave it a cocktail. And that's this one right here.
What are they, and where do they come from?
Response toys!
Some of them make freaky faces not even a mother can love. Inksters squirt vile ink that disappears in a flash. The motion creatures will shake, rattle, and roll their bones at the snap of your fingers. Just imagine if they came to life. Goosebumps toys.
Each sold separately, batteries not included.
If reading's a scream, playing's a howl!
Is that not fabulous? Here's another one. Of course, that is the Goosebumps toys that came from the Goosebump series.
Number 1 best-selling author R.L. Stine wants to give you lots and lots of Goosebumps in 3 different book series. First, Goosebumps, where the terror began and the screams go on forever and ever. Then, give yourself Goosebumps, where you choose from 20 different scary endings. And don't forget, Goosebumps presents books based on the Goosebumps TV show with creepy color photos inside. From Parachute Press and Scholastic, available wherever books are sold. Write us to get information on how to join the all-new Goosebumps fan club. Goosebumps, they're so good, it's scary.
Doggone it, the whole thing was. So basically, what I was saying is, I agree with the Tremors. It's basically one of my. Thank you guys. It's gonna be one of them nights, but uh, the movie's fabulous. I think the whole cast was wonderful, and some of the best quotes coming out of it, like, you broke into the wrong damn rec room, didn't you? And Reba McEntire was fabulous. So if you haven't seen Tremors, please see it. Please see it, because it's fantastic. Choo choo, woo woo. You're all aboard the Hot Mess Express, my friends. So yeah, Goosebumps, I think, did a lot. Of course, the Harry Potter series was released, and that was a big hubbub. And people were like, if I see one more adult reading a Harry Potter book, and again, I get it all. I get it. I get the whole, don't let them get into it. I get it. And you shouldn't. Everything should be supervised. You can't just, they're counting on you to just hand them something and push them in the room or whatever, or go on and do your thing. You got to be, folks, I'm telling you, you got to know what your kids are up to. You got to be all over that, like white on rice. That's why you get G.I. Joes. That's why you get your own micro machines and collect your cards and go to the movies you're not sure you want to see. But and I've been known to walk out of a few. I can't remember when that one, that Wild West or whatever. That was the dumbest thing. All that steampunk stuff and everything. It was just so silly. I'm going outside. But most of them I enjoyed. Very, to experience that with them and hear what their vantage point was on. I hope you guys had those kind of experiences too. But that's what the 90s are kind of to me. And what I was able to catch in those busy times, because you're working, you're paying your bills, you're doing what you can do, and you're on that, that hamster wheel. And so some of it I missed and got to go back, because we had things like you guys said, Blockbuster, and you could pick a movie, and who didn't do that? Who didn't go get, 3 for $10? Who didn't, get all excited and try to get there, grab the, one of the 3 that they had up there, and I didn't get it, or that guy got it, or, we all been there. Or the Beanie Babies, when you're standing in line. How many people, raise your hand, have you ever been to a Beanie Baby auction? With or without kids? If you don't have kids, this is a whole different day. But anyway, because there's plenty of adults. There's more adults, I think, than kids out there getting Beanie Babies from an auction. But they did do them. They were pretty popular back around that time. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Yep. Harry's and Draco's kids are all to Hogwarts. Yeah. It's, far from truth. I hate Beanie Babies. But yeah, we did the Burger King nights, the Beanie Baby nights, the it wasn't all the time. The Pokemon trade card nights at the Burger King. That was smart for them to do that. I mean, they were pretty packed. You just try to do as much as you can. The skateboarding, we were all involved in that. And the different things, like when Terminator came out and you started talking about AI and things like that. And here we are. Think about it. I'm starting to feel like Sarah Connor. I swear I am. I'm like, okay, boys, here we go. I know that sounds funny, but I ain't joking. It's getting a little crazy. So it's really interesting. I think that's a neat way of thinking about it through a kid's eyes. And, if you were a kid growing up in the 90s, what were you into? What were you, excited to see? Because I don't think we have that kind of excitement anymore. We certainly don't have the level of excitement that, say, Star Wars opening night in the 70s, the lines, and the talk about it in school, the build up in school, in the halls, in the schools, and then after, and then the next one, and the next one, and the Rocky. When Rocky came out in New Jersey, I'll tell you, every no offense, guys, but every Italian that came out of there, they wanted to fight in the streets. Or they kicking garbage cans and fire hydrants and phone booths and stuff. The same things like, when Officer and Gentleman came out, that kind of thing. But anyway, the impact that things had, Rosemary's Baby, Exorcist, Amityville Horror, all these things that came out, Psycho. That was an earlier one, of course, but I can remember when Psycho came out. My older sister's talking about it. and how they were marketing it, and how Hitchcock was such a genius on how he did it. He would do the buildup. He would hire the nurse and the guy that looked like a doctor standing in the lobby just in case somebody had a heart attack, and play on that. That was genius marketing. But it had its impact. It works. It's the same reason, build up and hype and blinking neon signs and fancy posters and stuff still work today. But in the 90s, I think that's kind of sort of where you saw it kind of fading off there, because if you think about it, like you guys mentioned, picking a movie, you went to these places, the Blockbusters and all the other places, I forget all the names, and you talk to other people with your kids, well, we're here, what are you here for? We're trying to get the Lion King, it's supposed to come out, we can see it, we saw it in the theater, but already, that kind of mess. But then you also had the deep conversations where you're up there and you're really looking for some movies that are kind of sort of like, I don't know, maybe you're into The Sopranos, which came out around that time and was getting real big, and bada bing, bada boom. And you went, oh, man, I'm really liking The Sopranos. Do you know any old gangster movies? I'm kind of looking at that because you're all staying in the same section. You're reading the backs of movies and, all that kind of stuff. You don't have that kind of talk. I guess that was kind of the adults' version of walking down the hallways in the schools and talking about it, or at the office, So I think that kind of stopped when the internet really kicked in. Because now you don't go to your buddy for the info. You go to Google or whatever your browser page is, right? And you're talking in chats and you're talking in, and that's kind of cool because now you have people that are all interested in the same thing congregating in the same place. So it's kind of a very convenient meeting instead of having to go down to the church hall or the cafe, whatever it may be, or the coffee house or whatever, to meet and have a conversation at somebody's house. You can just be in your PJs, laying in bed with your dog, or sitting on your couch and watch on TV or whatever, and you can go and you can talk about any subject pretty much you want 24/7 at this point, or watch a movie about that, or a talk show, or whatever, podcast, whatever. And I think it's neat too that, even like book clubs, I think we're losing something with the social of actually having to get up and get out and go, because other things can happen too. You can meet other people, or you can, unexpected bad and good things can happen. So that's changed. But once you got out of the 90s and that internet, because we talked about it using Sightings as kind of our gauge, because it started in the beginning of the 90s and ended at the end, and how it grew, kind of using that as a little catalyst there. Because you can't really use Unsolved Mysteries because that started in 87. I think it was 87. 87 on... Yep. 1987 to 2010 for Unsolved Mysteries. That's a good run. So they started getting in there early, 1987, and starting to feel how the internet would work with a live show. Would the public be interested? Of course, like we said, there's that kind of interaction with Sightings and stuff too, and other shows like That's Incredible. Really didn't use that. They were out. They came in and went out in like 4 years, so they were gone before the 90s got started. But they started to have that variety show interaction kind of thing. But there was other ones. There was that one with Jack Palance and things like that. So I'm certainly not saying it was the only one, but it had that format that you could watch change and kind of, not just with the public interest, but in their own education of, oh, we're going to another haunted house. We're going to take this medium is really good at this. And, and let's study a little of the history first, not just what the caretaker says, but let's maybe send somebody to the library and do our own digging and see if we can come up with something else. They did that, and little subtle things that we could watch change. And it's kind of neat to kind of add that and then group onto it. That what happened to the decade after that, and growing in the paranormal and stuff. Did it get better? Did we learn how to do things better? I'd say, yeah. Here's a good question. Did the media find a better way to show it to us? Here's what everybody else is doing. Here's what some professionals are doing. Here's some guys we gave matching t-shirts to. Let's see what they're doing. And then we'll put it all together in such a soup, and then boil it down to where it's all mixed into where you don't even know where to focus anymore. And I think that's what also happens with us shifting. Now they've got us all trained to have these like goldfish memories, and this news cycle of, gosh, if you blink for a couple hours, you go, wait a minute, what happened to that? Now we got what? This, and this? Oh, wow. Okay. Let me take a note. Wait a minute. Where'd that go? Wait, what's this? What? Oh my God. Are you kidding? Really? Well, what happened to who? I mean, it's just like, and that's like every, hour, the way the news cycle is now. Does anybody ever remember it being like that? It's almost like it's just gone to like this such a fast spin. It's just like it's going to, because if you look back at the 90s, we were still standing at the Blockbuster. We're standing, with our kids, look, ulterior motives. Yeah. But the kids still got the unicorn and the bear, even though you were there for the princess bear or the whatever it was that you thought was going to be your retirement 10 years from now. You got yours and you got the plastic box and they got theirs, and you had some family time. Maybe you went and got ice cream or a burger or whatever. Maybe you went to a movie. And it was cool. And I think something happened during that time. Not sure what it was. Can't blame everything on the internet, But think about it and how the media changed, how everything started changing. 2000. Here we are, 23 years later. Wow. Something to think about. All right. What else do I have here for you? So we talked about the toys and we talked about that kind of stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the movies. So here's one that this channel put together. I thought it was pretty cool. So we're going to go ahead and give them the credit, and it is Movie Time Capsule. They did a really good job, and I agree with their assessment. See what you think. Let's get you a better view here. Look. Thank you so much, baby. Did we forget about this one? Look at that, Wesley Snipes. Now, come on. Faculty. We did mention this one. Thank you, conviction. Truly, in my heart. This was actually a really good movie. If you haven't seen it. I kind of like this series. After a couple, it got old. But I couldn't remember Jack Black being in it. Did you? That's Jack Black.
Can I help you?
Typical Jack Black face. After a while, the Halloweens kind of got old for me. I don't know about you. That's just my honest assessment. I can only take so much Jamie Lee Curtis. Don't write me letters. I love you, Derek. It is. It is the best. It's the best kept secret on the inner tubes. Don't tell me. This one, I know there was a lot of kerfluffle about this one. It didn't. I like the Urban Legend better than the Ring series. I know. Say what you will. I liked Candyman better because it had a deep story to it, One of my absolute favorites. Here's why. Jesus. Him. Love me some James Woods. Did you forget about that one? Let's see. And these, the first one, okay. Maybe. I just drop kicked them. I don't understand.
I should have asked you this a long time ago. Tiffany
Will you be my bride?
The boys enjoyed it. I never saw it, so I'm gonna watch it. Did I watch it? If you've never seen The Relic with Tom Sizemore, that was a great movie. Loved. That's what this reminds me of. I don't know. Species 2, the first one was all right. My opinion, only my opinion. I'm not a Siskel or an Ebert. Just, I'm not into the whole, Did it? There you go. Well, thank you very much let me get their name again here. Make sure I got this right. I think that they put that together well. Movie Time Capsule. 197 subscribers. Get in there and give them some love. Maybe watch whatever came next in the 2000s. Who knows? We might hit that in the paranormal realm. Let me get rid of this one. Now, this was kind of cool. So here's what I got for you. I'm going to see if I can get the link in here. I don't expect it. Don't worry, mods, to go and get it because it's in the archives. It's not on the inner tubes. You have to go in, and I don't know what countries will allow. I don't know, but I'm going to give you the link, and if you get it, you get it. You can watch it for free. So I've got a little thing here I'm going to show you, and this surprised me because I had never heard anything about it. Now, our friends across the pond here, speaking from the United States right now, they I had never heard of this. I find this fascinating. I hope you do too. So I'm just going to have play the tape, and then I'll come. We'll finish up because did you ever hear about this? Here we go. Cube. Stuck on a button. Cube. Had y'all heard of Ghost Watch? Halloween night, 1992. They put it under the Screen One drama banner, so people thought it was a documentary. They thought it was real. Similar to the 1938 radio
welcome
drama.
Live this Halloween night to the first ever.
1 second, I want to tell you this. Very similar to the 1938 radio drama, The Orson Welles War of the Worlds, where people turned on the radio and thought it was real. For some reason, because now, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with how the BBC sets up channels, but I would assume it's very much like ours. So if you're on a movie channel, you expect a movie. If you're on a documentary channel, you expect a documentary, which is, I'm guessing, where this is going. Despite the fact that they announced before time and all that other stuff, they put it out like it was alive. So it was very similar to our, when they put out Blair Witch Project. Okay. Everybody thought it was real, or was supposed to be real. And they put out this thing called Ghost Watch. Now, here's the weird thing. I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to tell you, because I think your vantage point would change if I told you before. So let's try it this way. Never heard of it, Vixen? I had neither. So let's see.
TV.
So there they have a switchboard, which the goofy MC, the guy with the microphone making all the cheeky monkey jokes all through this, you'll see him through this. Now, again, this is my first view of this. I don't know these people. I don't know how they are, their background story, how they are now, if they're still active. I don't know. But this is 1992, Halloween. And I'm looking at this like, okay, they're doing something like Haunted Live. What was it? Is it Haunted Live? Most Haunted. And I love that. I would watch that back when I was in Alabama. I would watch that because I love the fact that I forget her name now, the blonde, and her husband is very famous there for his historical paranormal research and what he's done for the paranormal community. He's amazing. And then his wife too, I suppose. Anyway, they go through and they go into a room and it'll be like, you come here and you tell us you're here and you show us and make a sound, and then it'll go bang and she'll she'll scream out of the room. But anyway, that's Most Haunted. So I thought, okay, they're doing like a Halloween special. We're going to do something a little bit like that. We're going to have somebody sitting in a chair in a blindfold. We're going to see if the ghost answers, whatever, the Halloween Live. Let's go to, our expert in the other room, and let's go over here and look at command control, that kind of thing. Because what I'm reading about what happened in 1992, people have had to stress in these different articles and explanations of this thing that in 1992, although we had the internet and we had the dial-up, we had, different stuff like that, it wasn't very prevalent for somebody who didn't work in an office. I mean, not every home had one. That was coming, when all those little portable ones came out, those little apples and all that mess, right? So you couldn't just whip out your phone and Google it. I guess basically what I'm saying. So they had to go on the fact that when did they come into this? They come in halfway and they're just mesmerized by this thing. Listen, I cannot overstate the fact that this thing blew out of the water. Their switchboard got so overloaded. They had put in a fail-safe. They wanted to put up a number like if you see anything or you hear anything or experience anything strange or anything like that, please call the number. Our switchboards are waiting. And then Cheeky Monkey there is saying our witchboard, and he's throwing in all the puns, and he's being the life of the party. So anyway, the switchboard's blowing up. People are calling in like crazy, and their fail-safe was an answering machine that would say, this is a parody. It is this is not real. We appreciate you calling in. You're in the queue for the Ghost Watch keychain, whatever it might be. So the problem was so many people were calling in, it jammed the lines and it just shut the whole thing down. So they didn't get the message, which added to their fear and their panic and their, pandemonium. So apparently this caused a huge panic amongst many people. And the ghost facers, I've never seen that one. And but people died. I know you're saying, what? What? Me too. Here's some more. I don't know how you're feeling about this. This is so weird to me. Apparently, this whole thing is based on the Enfield ghost haunting. Not by character name or anything like that. Just the loose feeling fact that you have a mom, two young girls, her daughters, struggling against the grain. House is haunted. What's going on? My kids are flying around the living room. Can you call somebody, right? This is supposed to be a real case where they send this guy, a ghost hunter, in. That's the mom that supposedly, hasn't slept in, months and, worried for the life of her kids. And this is the guy that they send in to talk to him. You got your tech expert, you met her. And then you got the MC, which is obviously this guy. And supposedly he was well known in the place. Hello, babe. How you doing, Steve? Supposedly he was well known. I don't know. Was he? Does anybody here, recall any of this or any of these characters? I don't. Again, keep in mind, people died. And I'm not making fun of that. I'm trying to make sense of it. Well, what you think about? I can't even, folks. So before we get to sightings, God bless this little fella here. Okay, let me stop that. Why is it still going? Oh, it's mine. Never mind. I'm sorry. Choo-choo. All right, let me take that down for a minute. So, insanity. It goes on and on. I found you a copy of this if you want to see it. Here it is right here. If you want to watch it. Because here's the thing, folks. It was never aired again because of the outrage. Because of the people that were scared to death. The young man that I told you about, he was, I think he was 19. He was mentally challenged. And he watched this, apparently, and was convinced now that there's ghosts, that he was just going to go ahead and end everything because if he was... And there was actually lawsuits against this show for multiple different effects. The people that were calling in weren't just calling in to say, hey, I've seen a ghost, or I believe it, or hey, I saw a ghost behind the girl on the stairs, because that stuff, we've all seen that happen. We've all seen those shows where people call in and those Halloween lives and things like that. I've seen multiple of them. Ghost hunters used to do them all the time. They pretty much amount to a whole lot of nothing, but, a lot of hype, and it's fun. You're hanging out, you're doing whatever. This one, I do not understand what I'm not seeing here, because, again, people were calling in to say that they were getting effects from the show live, the psychosis that happened during this. Where's the mesmerizing? Because they're calling in feeling sick, I'm nauseous, I'm getting effects from the show, I'm not just seeing things, I'm feeling things. And this is what caused and it's across the board. They blew up the witch board. It's insane. So it was never shown again. You can rent it. I think it was eventually released on DVD, where in a compiled kind of new release of this plus the aftermath. And again, I'd never heard of this. 1992. So here it is here. If you want to see it, it is available on the archives. So just put in archive.org and look for Ghost Watch 1992, and you can see more. I can leave it there, folks. I don't know what you think. This has been like nuts just seeing this. I'll tell you a couple little things here. Let me see, I'm gonna share that one. It just blows my mind. I'm like, what do you mean they were filling up the local ERs? What am I looking at here? I don't understand the psychosis that this would drive somebody. Are you outraged, James? Are you? I mean, to me as well. I mean, people hurt themselves. People went to the ER sick. I mean, I've seen bad TV before, but it didn't send me to the ER. I mean, not to say that, again, for real stuff, for real, you're watching, somebody actually exercise or something like that, or you have something where there's actually an activity and it's live. Yes, it can jump. but I'm not seeing anything here that was real. And here's the kicker. This was all pre-recorded. This wasn't live. So the things that people were seeing walking up the stairs thinking they're watching something live, they weren't, unless they were seeing it on the tape that had been taped earlier, because it was pre-taped. And the things that we're getting off of it weren't live. It was psychosis, because unless it was in the frequency that they were putting it in. But I'd love to know what you think. This is crazy. War of the Worlds broadcast. This is what I'm saying, Vixen. And here too. They're documented cases, and more than one court case against this. I mean, I don't know the payouts and everything else, but let me check here real quick. Here, I'll tell you what it was, and we'll finish up with it. But it just blew my mind, and I didn't know whether you guys had heard about it before or not. But here, I'll tell you here. Plot summary, basically, Ghost Watch is presented as a live broadcast hosted by Michael Parkinson. That's the guy you see sitting there in a chair smirking. In an attempt to present concrete evidence of paranormal phenomena. To archive this, the program launches an on-air investigation into a house in the fictional Fox Hill Drive, North Holt, Greater London. So it wasn't even a real place. And I believe, if I recall correctly, in 1938, the War of the Worlds, they were actually using real places, a real town in New Jersey and things like that. I think I could have that wrong, but that added to the, he's, oh my gosh, they're right down the street, kind of thing. Whereas this was not even a real town. So I don't know. Maybe that just had no input whatsoever. But it's called, the one that they released is Ghost Watch Behind the Curtains, and is a retrospective documentary completed in 2012, released on DVD 2013, chronicling the making and the reaction to Ghost Watch, because there was just so much reaction. And all the different things that went on. Controversy. Although Ghost Watch was aired under the Screen One drama banner, its documentary style led many viewers to believe the events were real, causing much controversy after the show's airing. The BBC was besieged with phone calls from irate and frightened viewers. Among the Parkinson's elderly mother. British tabloids and other newspapers criticized the BBC the next day for the disturbing nature of some scenes, such as Green's final scene where she is locked in an under the stairs cupboard with a howling ghost, and Parkinson's eerie possession scene. So apparently they really poured it on, folks. Here it is right here. You have the link if you would like to watch that for free. There you go. We spare no expense here at Journey Through the Gate. I hope you get something out of it. It's a great idea. And I love the fact that they set it all up. And I wonder if this was like almost a catalyst of the, did this come before all the Most Haunteds and the Halloween specials and the Ghost Hunters Halloween specials live and, all that. And I don't know. Some of those were pretty good. I liked some of the, the way they did them. Again, you're not expecting to see any like earth-shattering evidence. And if you do, the next day or 5 minutes from then, you're just going to hear all the debunking of that said evidence. So it was just for the experience of it. But I don't get how this made people unlife themselves. Unless they were putting it out like the record's playing backwards. Maybe there's something in there I'm not hearing. Thank goodness, because I don't want to hear it, It's pretty amazing stuff to me. So there you go. Another little gift from the 1990s, my friends. All right, clean that up. Get rid of that one. Rid of that one. Okay, so what else do we have? I have, again, one of the best, because we've been pulling little stories out of it here and there. Last week we saw the cops had the UFO sighting, and I pulled that one out of, I would say, probably dozens upon dozens of UFO stories out of sightings, because it was police officers. And if you're military or you're police, you're trained in a certain way, to recall information, to be able to give good debrief, statements and, information and accurate images and descriptions of things and timing. And it is more important. Plus the fact that those young men held back their story, not just afraid of ridicule or losing their job, but, literally, being in trouble for the same type of thing like pilots go through, classified information, this kind of thing, national security, whatever they're going to throw out there. They've got all these, buzzwords for that kind of thing. So, as far as in the 90s and all the different sayings and stuff, like I titled the show, radical ghosts and, buzzkill ghosts that come in and just, kill your buzz and, all those words that we used back then. And, yeah, a lot of them I can remember coming out of like the Ninja Turtles and of course, all the movies and stuff that's out, like Hakuna Matata. Who wasn't saying that? Hakuna Matata, and it means no worries. Yes, I know, Grace. Shut the hell up. I got it. No worries. Hakuna Matata. I'm not eating the bugs, So those things do stick and they kind of tattoo a time, and it's on there forever. And I can't believe some of the stuff that happened that I never even heard of, especially if it's in the paranormal, supernatural, like not hearing about Ghost Watch. But I can see that not hearing about it, if I ever saw it or saw the stuff for it, I would have just thought it had something to do with Peter Underwood because his radio show was called Ghost Watch and the font that they used is very much the same. So I can see it kind of slip in my radar, but to be like a War of the Worlds in 92. But again, a lot of the stuff I read about and read up on it also said that, the Times had it. We didn't have, this is still beepers, we might have started getting into the flip phones, the people that could really afford it, the affordability of that, you're still getting paid by the text and stuff, it was kind of the early times. So we didn't have that instant information. And I wonder what you guys think. Could something like that go over now? How would it happen now? If they put something up now and told you it was real, and told you it was alive, how would you react? Would you stop and question it now that you've had so much in the past that they've cried wolf too much? Or would it be like an instant Independence Day where everybody kind of ran out and, the guy comes out and says a big speech about, we will stand together on our Independence Day. We will work against this enemy, this one enemy. We'll all come together. This is it. This is the thing that brings us all together. This thing. Think about that. Because I think media and placed correctly, propaganda, it is so obviously so quick, so fast, and is proven time and time again throughout history. So think about that. All right. So Sightings has been, like I said, a lot from 92 to 98, and they've got it all, that we're interested in anyway. And again, it's, I want to say almost parallel, but for the amount of time, Unsolved Mysteries, 1987 to 2010, they did run parallel together for a little bit, and they probably learned off each other. But some of the other ones, let me say these before I forget them again. Some of the other ones I don't want to forget: Extraordinary from Australia, 1992 to 98. Okay, so it's again running parallel with Sightings. So we're really getting into paranormal here, and I'm hoping that 92 paranormal people who called in is like, I'm nauseous. The thing wasn't even right. Again, I hope we learned something by 98. Let's see if we did. They started coming out with, this is a time now where I think the 70s really kicked off that paranormal supernatural, who built the pyramids, where's Atlantis, Nazca lines and all that was coming out. And, your Twilight Zones and stuff we've talked about before, and Night Gallery and stuff. I think 90s really started in really good on the 70s documentaries and kicked it up a notch. The 80s had stuff, but it was almost like you could see them testing stuff out. It's like, that's not working. Take that out and shift it this way. By the 90s, they seemed to have it down because, again, you had In Search Of, okay, and that carried through, and that sparred off a lot of them. But here comes the documentaries, and we've known and loved them. We've seen some of the ghost stories here. We've seen pieces of them here on the show throughout the years. And that's the Haunted or excuse me, just Haunted, because The Haunted is a movie that we've also talked about here with the Smurls, who Ted loves so much and calls them the Smurfs. But it's called The Haunted. It came out in 1996, and that's the one that had like the Gettysburg ghosts. It had Anger, and it had so many good ones. We're going to watch one here, but it was very well done, and it was put out almost in that story feel kind of way, like Unsolved Mysteries did, where they left and they told the story, and they might talk to the real people in and out, but it was very well done. And the other one was Haunted Lives, and we've definitely seen a lot of the ghost stories here from that one. And that one came out in sections throughout the 90s. It came out in 1991, 1992, and then 1995 was the last one. And that had wonderful stories that we all know and love. And that one had Ghosts or Us with Yanni. It had School Spirits, that one that we saw, if you were with me about a year ago, we showed it, and it was the construction workers that were just perplexed. They had to tear down this school, and the kids were in the school, singing, taunting them with songs, and bricks would fall and equipment would break. And this one guy actually got killed when a brick wall fell on him, and the kids said they were going to do it. And they would leave messages on the chalkboard. All of that was Haunted Lives. It's very well done. Another one, let's not go in that direction. Let's just jump to the thing, because I'm afraid if I go off in that direction, I'm going to run out of time here. So let's pull this one up. Now, this one, again, these are, I think it's one or two, ghost story from Sightings. I think it's a 94 episode. And just like the other two I showed last week, it shows their kind of metamorphosis into this. We're learning, we're getting into season 3, and that kind of area. We're honing our craft here. And they've gotten a really good, kind of rapport going with Peter James. So I know y'all love Peter. I love Peter. So this is a treat, and this is a good little case here. So here we go. Without further ado, this guy.
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. For more than 5,000 years, Salado Creek in what is now Texas was a place where Native Americans came to trade, to fall in love, to fight, and to die. In 1867, prosperous German immigrants bought the land and they built a mansion. And since then, the house has been fraught with tragedy, suicide, perhaps even murder. Well, not surprisingly, Sightings discovered the mansion because the current owners fear the spirits are restless. It was built for an immigrant family who came to San Antonio with nothing and built a fortune. Then it was home for the highest of Texas high society. Now it's the Black Swan Inn, an elegant and historic retreat. But this house and the very land it stands on have a darker side that began long ago when the creek ran with the blood of Mexicans and Americans fighting to claim it as their own. Behind this charming facade, there is a legacy of suffering, suicide, even murder. The solemn secrets that Joanne Rivera and her family did not know until the past began to invade the present.
I wasn't aware that there were spirits when I first came to the property, but shortly thereafter, I was very much aware of everything that was going on here. From voices to doors opening and closing and footsteps.
It was supposed to be the Rivera's dream house, but they had only been here a week when the haunting activity intensified.
The dolls would all be rearranged, and it was as if there were children that had been in there playing. The lights would turn off and on. It sometimes sounds like the piano, like this piano is playing all by itself. The spirits or the energies that are here were kind of testy. They wanted to see what I was going to do.
Joanne tried to put the spirits, the ghostly music, and the haunting activity behind her. But then her daughter Meredith had a frightening experience of her own in the south wing of the house.
The one time I went down there by myself, the only time, every step I took, there was another step behind me. I came running back to my mom because I was real uncomfortable.
The south wing harbors a lot of animosity and a lot of anger. I feel a lot of anger and a lot of negative violence. There was a time when I first came here that I was working in one of the closets in the south wing, and I got the feeling that I was being watched from the attic. I felt very threatened that I needed to get out now. And I ran up the hallway and was like, oh, God, I can't believe that just happened to me.
According to Joanne, it was not long after she and her daughter had felt the menacing but invisible presence that the threatening energy appeared to Joanne in human form. It came unexpectedly in the middle of the night.
All of a sudden, the bedroom lights came on, and there was a man standing at the foot of my bed with his hands on his hips. At first, I thought, well, it was a dream. You know, you were just imagining things. But then this went on every night for a good week. At about the same time, this man would come to the room. And then finally, I decided to rearrange the furniture. And after I moved the furniture, then he no longer came into the room.
Rearranging the furniture may have kept him out of Joanne's room, but it didn't mean that he was gone. During a storm, he came again, this time to Meredith's room.
I was laying in bed and it was lightning, so there was lots of shadows, but a couple of times I looked and I saw an old wrinkly-faced man. And not only, he was looking in the window at me. And the first time I saw it, I was scared, but I wasn't sure if it was really there or not. But I looked again, and 3 times, and he was there each time, just looking. I was so frightened because his face was there clearly. And there was no balcony, there's no steps, there's no tree, there's no way he could hold himself there to look.
So finally, she moved out of the room. And actually, until today, no one has ever slept in that room again. I
never believed in ghosts. And then when I moved in here and had, I guess, the opportunity to experience, and I did, I changed my mind about it because I saw it for myself and I believed it.
Meredith and Joanne are not the only ones who have felt the eerie presences within. Joanne's husband did not wish to appear on camera. But just at the end of the driveway, Justin Stutz and his mother Elizabeth run a vintage clothing business out of the Black Swan's original carriage house, and they believe that there are many ghosts here too.
Sometimes you'll walk into a building and you automatically just shudder. You feel that there's someone else there. You look around, you're convinced there's someone else in the room with you, and there's no one there.
Unlike the main house, the ghosts here are not menacing or threatening.
There's what I call our little girl, who throws little temper tantrums and throws things around, knocks all my photos over, and it's a childish temper tantrum.
The little girl may be their most recent sighting, but for more than 30 years, Elizabeth and Justin have watched another apparition roam the grounds.
There is a lady who haunts the front porch of the main house and also the front yard. I've seen her off and on for many years. She's a tall, rather tall, I would say, beautiful, has long dark hair, wears a long white dress like a lady would from, say, the 1920s.
The gazebo is at the foot of the hill, and we have a young woman who likes that area. It's very comforting. It's very romantic, so maybe she's just drawn to that area.
The spirit had no name, but Joanne was haunted by the feeling that the ghost was a real person trapped in time. Then Joanne was contacted by Docia Williams, a local historian who was writing a book about San Antonio's historic mansions. Docia told Joanne all she knew about the home's history and its previous owners, including Park Street, a renowned attorney who was the real-life model for Perry Mason. Street lived here in the 40s and 50s with his beautiful wife, Jolene.
Jolene Wood Street. died very, very young of cancer. She was in her 30s. She did have one youngster at the time of her death. But she was a very beautiful woman, had always been very, very lovely. And I understand she is probably one of the entities or spirits that still closely watches over the house, because she was very possessive of it when she lived here and very protective of it and loved it very much.
The woman who I have seen on the front lawn, and the one in the white dress, I believe she is Park Street's wife. It looks like the pictures I have seen of her.
They were rich, famous, deeply in love. And when Jolene died, Park followed soon after in what was reported as a suicide.
I take for granted the story that was in the Express News and on the police blotters, that from a 4-poster bed with a teaster, he is supposed to have hung himself. Of course, it's also said that perhaps he didn't hang himself, that he was murdered, but I have no concept of how that might have happened.
But murder was the first thing psychic Kathleen Bittner-Roth sensed when Joanne invited her to survey the house.
The moment I stepped through the door, there was a psychic vision of a man hanging.
She grabbed her throat and turned around and said someone was hung here.
My sense in seeing this man was this was not a suicide, that someone murdered this man, that he was removed from here to make it look like a suicide.
On instinct, Kathleen went directly to the south wing and stopped
That'll make
at
a
this
ghost
closet
quick.
door, the same place where Joanne had felt threatening energy many times before.
I don't want to go in this closet either. I mean, look, you guys. I have a sense that there were 2 men that were involved with whatever was in that closet. There was something in that closet that they were after. I believe a huge safe.
And Kathleen sensed a connection to Park Street and his murder.
That closet where that room is, I believe, was his office or a study area. It was either where he kept something valuable or it's where someone watched him, meaning to do him harm. And that energy, that spirit is still there in that closet.
But who or what is that energy? And what was in that closet that someone was willing to kill for? Joanne asked Sightings for help, and we enlisted the psychic mind of Peter James.
I'm hoping that he can give us more information as to who's here and why they're here. But I also believe that part of the reason that I'm here and that the energies and the spirits that are putting up with me is that I'm here to resolve some of their issues. And maybe that's Park's death.
When Sightings returns, psychic Peter James investigates the Black Swan.
There was a blow to the head or something to the head is what I'm feeling.
Oh, hi! It's me again. I missed you. You remember me, right? I'm not only there at night.
The ghosts who are said to haunt the Black Swan Inn read like a who's who of San Antonio society. Among them, the spirit of a ravishing debutante cut down in her prime, and a local attorney whose life inspired Earl Stanley Gardner to create Perry Mason, and whose death was ruled a suicide but may have been murder.
I love that part. I had never heard that before, that his life was, Perry Mason was based on his life. That's pretty cool.
Does his spirit...
My mother loved Perry Mason, and she was pretty much my dad too, so happy Father's Day, Mom. There you go.
Want to win just one more case? And what do the other restless energies want? Psychic Peter James has come to find out. A beautiful spirit runs through the grounds. A menacing specter peers in the window. A restless energy penetrates every room. Are they the players in a 30-year-old mystery yet to be solved? Peter James will try to find out by using what he calls his 7th sense, his psychic power.
It seems like the wood in the house rings a bell with a name. I don't know what that means yet. When I first walked into the house, I mentioned sensing some beautiful woodwork within the house, but it rings a bell with a name, the wood. I feel like there's someone whose name began with a J or a G. I think it's a J. I get a sense of something political. This is, of course, preliminary.
The Wood daughter, Jolene, she was given the name of her mother's maiden name. She was an only child, met and married a very prominent local young attorney here in San Antonio, Hall Park Street. And a political figure, he ran for numerous political offices.
Peter was sensing this chapter in the home's notorious history. He was told nothing about this place, and yet he was describing Park Street to a T.
Now, bear in mind, when I mentioned political, that I think would tie in with something legal, like someone that also practiced some kind of law as well.
He was a very dynamic man, a very powerful, sometimes a very controversial figure.
This person died very, very tragically. I think it was, his life was taken at the hand of another, I think.
When he made these revelations, Peter did not know that another psychic, called in by the family, had already surveyed the house and had reached the exact same conclusion.
My sense was this was not a suicide, that someone murdered this man, that he was removed from here to make it look like a suicide.
In the many years that I've investigated hauntings, there's no doubt in my mind that the nature of the circumstances as to how Parks died was in fact murder, and I would wager all of my psychic ability on that fact. There was a blow to the head or something to the head. There was an injury to the head is what I'm feeling.
And it was in the south wing that Peter felt the answer would be found. In a cold, dark room, Peter claimed to see the face of a man staring at him.
It looked like I saw the face of a man looking in a window, an older man. That window back there, as a matter of fact, right there, right, that window there. The south wing, in my opinion, is scale of 1 to 10 is probably a 12 as far as activity, and particularly that little bar area or the area that I wasn't able to get into.
Peter not only visualized the strange energies, he also began to hear a haunting melody.
Feels like I hear someone playing the piano. I don't know if that ever happens here in the absence of physical beings, if the piano starts playing.
Didn't she mention that?
Joanne and the owner before her both believe that they have heard the piano play by itself.
See, I get a feeling like someone is watching me through a window. And I think it's this male, the elderly man.
It was only after his complete investigation that Peter was allowed to meet Joanne Rivera.
Nice to meet you again. So far, I find that there's at least 4, maybe 6 entities, ghosts here. With the name Wood, have any spirit?
Wood, that's the Jolene Woods.
That's the name?
Yes. When Peter said the word wood, it was a very good feeling. It's nice to know that Jolene is here and that other people can sense her and feel her presence here too.
But I also get a sense like I'm being watched through a window. What about an older gentleman?
Peter noticed that there was a man that used to stare in the bedroom. There's 2 men upstairs, I think. One is the old man that looks through the windows that my daughter experienced, and also the man that comes into my bedroom and would stand at the foot of the bed.
Jeez. Joanne took the psychic impressions in stride until Peter led her back to the south wing.
This hallway is very active.
This is a beautiful house.
I hate this hallway.
The way they've got it made up.
Across the room, to a door, to a closet, to an event that chilled Joanne to the bone.
Was there a death here less than 20 years ago?
Yes. When Peter talked about the closet that I really don't like to go into and feel very uncomfortable about, he acknowledged that there was a lot of energy there. I don't like the closet.
It's active. It's very active. Now, did anyone ever tell you, I'm receiving it vibrationally, is there some kind of a treasure here?
There's supposed to be. I haven't found it.
There is a very aggressive spirit there, and I think he's trying. I think there are 2 that are still battling over
this vault
treasure.
Joanne first heard about the treasure from
He
Kathleen
does
Zimmer
kind of
Roth, a
has
psychic
that
whom Peter
hair.
James has never met. She sensed a treasure trove here, and without knowing it, Peter confirmed her psychic vision.
There was something in that closet that they were after. I believe that he may have come home unexpectedly. I have a sense that there were two men that were involved with whatever was in that closet.
I think the treasure is in the south wing of the house somewhere. And I think the ghost that's back there is trying to keep Joanne from finding this buried treasure. Pay attention. Now, there is a message that happens in this house at least once a week. And if you pay attention to the time you hear the piano play, the time of day, there's a key to where this thing is buried, this treasure is buried. I get a number 7.
Peter gave me hints on how to find the treasure, how to listen to the spirits that are trying to tell me. They're trying to guide me. I think the spirits are trying to communicate with me, especially one in particular. I think that he wants me to resolve Park's death.
I think Parks is the one that is trying to communicate with her. I think he's the one that she finds in her bedroom. I think he's telling her, number one, that he was murdered and that it wasn't suicide. The lady that is roaming through the house, I do believe, is Jillian Woods. She's also, I don't want to say that she's protective of Joanne, but I think she's more of a mediator, meaning that she's trying to keep peace between the two gentlemen that are battling.
I'm going to deal with the spirits, one in particular in the south wing, a little more strongly. I'm not going to be as frightened of him. The spirit that's there is welcome to stay there, but he can't always be chasing me up the hallway and making me feel afraid in my home.
She needs to just take charge of her home and tell him to leave.
My future here with the spirits that are here, I think that there are still questions. I think that they still have things to tell me. And hopefully now they'll be a little more open about communicating with me more directly. And I hope to find the treasure. And I think that when I find that treasure, that will open the door to Park's death. I think that has the answer.
The Rivera family has taken Peter James's advice to heart. They're trying to reach out to the spirits in their home. And they're listening for clues from the other side that will lead them to the treasure that Peter believes is buried close by.
Next.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I know I say it a lot, and I know we all agree on a lot of the reasons for it too, but name another show or another another show, another program, whatever, that in that amount of time you get the history, you get an investigation. Granted, you didn't get all the tech and, we got this reading here in this room or this reading here. You do get that eventually and throughout in many other stories and sightings, not this one particular. This was just Peter James being Peter James. And he's so accurate and he's so wonderful. And just like Jack said, he does kind of look a little like Geraldo Rivera. But, the hair. But here's the thing. What a lovely soul this guy was, and I've seen so many things, not just on sightings, but on other shows as well. And in books and things, that he spent his whole life walking around helping people. And he used what he called his 7th sense, his abilities to do it. And, him, again, we saw last week him walk through Alcatraz, speak on the pain. And if you knew how much of that investigation was cut and edited, in a good way. They cut out a lot of it because it was very graphic. What these hostages went through in the riots at Alcatraz, unconscionable, And another one too, I think there was a prison in San Francisco, I believe, that similar happened. And again, blowtorches and, beheadings. come on. These are prisoners that got a hold of guards and lost their minds, if they had one to begin with. So to see, and Peter James walk through the Alcatraz with Tim White, and see him kind of start to believe, like, wow, we didn't tell him anything. We made sure, they emphasized so much. We know nothing before you come here. What he knew was the general knowledge of Alcatraz that most people knew. Hey, Echo Leaf, welcome in. Hey, D-Rock, what's happening, baby? You got your popcorn and a bacon. Yeah. He's ready. So it's incredible to me to watch the amount of information in a short amount of time, and the amount of kindness and integrity of detail. They would come back, like if they got something wrong, or if something, I think I recall even a couple cases where they got duped, or the people turned out to be like they were faking it, or whatever. And I don't believe that it was a haunting. I think it was a UFO abductee or something like that. But again, until I find it, I don't want to say more because I'll get it wrong for sure. But they came back and they said, much to our chagrin, we always worry that this could happen. Well, it happened. And, we got to tell you the truth. I mean, they didn't have to come out. Look, he hard pressed to find the, New York Times doing that. In fact, you won't find them doing that. You might find a retraction on page 30, on the bottom of page 32, and the accusation was this big on the entire front page, and they got it wrong. And they print a retraction on the back of the, the milk ad on page whatever under the fold. Nobody's going to see it, but they blast the lie real loud. And that's what happens with all this. And it gets very murky. But when it gets murky in the paranormal, you can always go back to this treasure trove of information when they had it just about right. 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, you can go back as far as you want. Not that they didn't get it right then, because there are plenty of things, and we showed them here on the show, that they did get it right. Obviously, somebody knew what they were doing when they wrote the script for The Time of Their Lives, Abbott and Costello, 1938. I would venture to say a large percentage of that movie got it right. Very much like the Titanic, that got it right. Everything that you saw in that 1990s movie, blockbuster, was correct. You could notice throughout that movie, James Cameron, who did the film, this was his baby. Obsessively so. It was kind of weird. But anyway, the stuff in the background, you could actually, for a second, you thought you were having deja vu, because they were taken from photographs, and in a moment, it would stop, and it would match that photograph. Like, here's a scene. When the kids were kicking the ice, well, there's pictures, believe it or not, that survived. So they did have that back then. Now this crap you see where they found a camera under the ocean for 100 years, and now that here's the pictures that were on it, that's BS. And everybody should just know that off the top of their head. No amount of sealing that up. I can't imagine the scenario where that would be true. But there was some before. And I believe there's some out there of good old the good old banker himself. That's a whole nother story. Man, that was just that's a bold mess. But like the Titanic, there were everything that happened in there, the way the things slid, the way that, when it started to go, and the dishes slid off the tables that were angling because the ship was capsizing. It's like that visible? It's my Titanic elbow. And but snapped off, and that's why it went this way. It separated so much under the ocean because it broke that way. And all of those things were accurate, but the Rose and Jack thing was totally made up. There was somebody that was similar to the Rose, actually had a big diamond and the whole kind of thing, but a lot of those characters were combinations of other people. There was kind of a Jack, but and they weren't together. They just mushed it together to kind of take them around the ship to tell the story. So that's way the paranormal is, if you think about it. These programs, these shows that they're putting on, where like all this there'd be some stuff real in the background, but everything around it is so fake we don't know what to believe anymore. Well, you can go back to these 90s, you go back to the 70s, like we did with Bigfoot. And these guys with all of this, I know I keep bringing it up, but it's mind-boggling how you can have 125 years of experience sitting around a picnic table, and the only thing that they can find out that they're arguing and stuff about is, if you catch a Bigfoot, what do you do with it? Well, I'm going to catch a Bigfoot and I'm going to kill it no matter what. And that's just the end of that, because I spent 27 years doing this, and by God, if I get one, I'm going to kill it and I'm going to prove I was right. I understand. I totally feel it. Don't agree with it, but I understand where he's coming from. And then the other guy, he's saying, "No, we got to be more humane. This is a thing with this," and that they had that conversation. Again, we showed it on the show. 1973, I think it was, in a documentary. The episode is here on my channel. It's called Bigfoot and Sepia, because the film adaptation that that you can find out there is so old, and the way they didn't preserve it quite the same as some of the other film that's out there, and it looks very sepia, even though it's from 1973. It's crazy. But you can go back to these paranormal and supernatural and UFO abductees, whatever, match up, because they did it right, in my opinion. They looked at it from every angle and gave you every vantage point and gave you every opportunity, along with history. And in a lot of cases, and this is my favorite part, in quite a few of the cases, an astonishing number of these cases that we're watching and these stories that we're watching, how do they end? Usually the ghost is getting rescued. You had that one lady say, "I don't do spirit rescue." Really? And then she said, "It's so simple. You just tell them, look, this is what's happened. You're dead." And she tells you all how to do it. But why wouldn't she do it? It's interesting to hear why people don't get involved and do that. Look, nobody's forcing anybody anything. But in some cases, if you have somebody that's so battered and damaged in a way of whatever they went through, that they literally need a spark, like seeing their mom or their dead sister or dead loved one or a dog or whatever, and that helps, and you bring them through. If you can do that, your guides can do it, and they can see it. They instantly kick into that love vibration, changes everything. So the person you were talking to, although it's the same person, the essence of that person, the soul of that person you were talking to 30 seconds ago, is not the same. It's not the same vibration, because now they've seen love and they've connected into it, and it's instantaneous. It's so fast. And in some cases, a little tougher, where they're kind of starting to see, like the story I told you about the old man that used to sit at his kitchen table, where he sat for decades, smoking a cigarette and reading his newspaper. And as a ghost, he would do the same. They could hear the paper rattle sometimes. They could see the chair move sometimes. It varied, but he's there at the table. And his wife, who had passed years before him, knows that he's doing this, knows his ghost is doing this, knows he's stuck in a rut. And it keeps coming through, trying to catch him at the right time, where she could just penetrate through that darkness to get him to see that, just a smidge of that light. And then if he could see a smidge of that light and feel that love for a second, it opens that crack up a little wider, and more light goes into the dark room of his mind and his soul. Tell me why that's wrong, or how it could be wrong. Because everything they're doing is their own. All you're doing is trying to direct it and go, come on, bring some of your own stuff in there. It's like, sometimes it sounds like, and you feel like you're that statue. You've all seen the meme where that statue's holding the light. It's not Liberty, it's something else. Vixen. Who's that statue? She holds the light. I think not MGM, but one of the movie theaters uses it as a as a logo, as an icon. But anyway, she's standing there and she's holding the light. And she said, this is what happens when somebody tries to put my light out. And like all these things come running towards her. And she just takes it and goes, woo, and bangs them all in the head and beats them and then holds it back up again. That's what being a light worker is about. Because people are going to try to push in your cracks. They're going to know your weaknesses. Their demons know your weaknesses. Their spirit guides, whoever's guiding them, the things that are trying to stop you and slow you down. Like I tell you all the time with Sylvia Brown. Don't judge her for the last 5 years of her life, because this woman was deflecting spiritual arrows like you wouldn't believe. And after a while, you just get tired. You go, okay, fine, screw it. Believe what you want to believe, because she knows she knew what she knew, and I've seen it dozens of times, and that's no exaggeration. Probably more than that in my lifetime. That's happened to people because they're light workers and they're trying to do good, and other things that are dark are trying to stop them. That's why we get sick, that when we're doing stuff. So anyway, think about all that. I know it's a lot to put in your pocket, but if you ever get depressed or gosh, I wish there was good paranormal shows on. I wish there was good this. I wish, things had taken a different turn. I'm really tired of seeing all this over dramatization, and I'm not really learning anything new, and I'm not feeling, I feel like too many of these things are just leaving everything in this really fear state of so many jump scares and things like that, and these saws and all this other, that's just such on the other side of the spectrum. But then again, you've got your American Horror Story crowd that doesn't mind watching these things because it has enough story in it to keep you going. But you think about how much of that input, and how the effect it has. Is that breaking down your armor? Is it putting cracks in your armor? Is it letting light in, or is it letting dark in? But you don't feel that way when you watch one of these. You saw a lovely lady, bless her heart. I don't know why she's dressing up. Is it a museum? I don't know. Maybe this is just her. You do you. It was lovely. It went with the atmosphere. The house was beautiful. It was well put together. She looked like she was enjoying herself out there with her daughter, having tea and all this other stuff. Wonderful. March on. Then she's got the other guy in the guest house with the fancy clothes and the cool hats and all that stuff, making things. He's got his own haberdashery back there. Him and his girl, wasn't he? They were back there. Maybe that's why they're dressed up. Maybe that's part of the deal. I don't know. But it all went together. It was lovely. It was wonderful to see. You're hearing some really scary stuff. I mean, think about it. You're in this house and these things are happening. You're alone. It's a little different than just telling a story. Experiencing it is a totally different deal. We all know that. But you're still hearing it in an atmosphere where you can absorb it in a different way. It's not coming at you 3D and making you right away defensive and all tense up. And how are you receiving that information? And what frequency is it coming in on? The way you're seeing it here, everything is chill. It's like candles and, wow, it's nice, this is the way it's handled. And we like Peter James, and he's just going to come in and lay it out like he sees it. There's treasure in the house. The dude's trying to keep you away from the treasure. And at the same time, we're noticing that they're perfectly willing to say, but there's other ghosts that are trying to tell you where it is. But this one guy doesn't want anybody near it. Or maybe he does, and he doesn't know what he wants. Maybe the ghosts are confused just as much as we are. We can't assume they got all the answers. And I think when we watch shows like this that are calmer, that have a beginning, a middle, and an end, a nice story where you can hear about the witnesses and what they've gone through and see how they're telling it and pull their energy. I think at that point somewhere, right in the first quarter of it, you start absorbing that information from a different place in a different way. And maybe it's a little bit more profound and goes a little deeper. And we're able to understand more and pick out all the little things of, nobody told him about the piano, but he pulled that up. Boom. And of course there's going to be people that say, they told him before, this is all fake. Everything's fake. Okay. That's fine. You do you. I get it. There's a cynical world out there. Everybody's jaded in their own way. I mean, at this point. Right? So you have to accept that and let them move on. But for those of us that are seeking valuable information from people that we have a chance to get to know a little bit, to see if we believe their story, there's some obvious people, even on these shows, that you just go, I don't know, that's a little crazy. I'm not, what's that Twitch about? Why do you keep looking over here? Are you making this up? Are you doing this for the hype? Or, you trying to get business into the motel? What's going on? But you have a chance to do that because you get to know the people. It's not, we're here at, Barney's barbecue and all day, taxidermy service. And we're here told that there's demons in the basement and they got some elementals on the roof. And, we just sent our team in here to wire this thing up from hell to yonder, back down again. We're going to come in here and we're going to tell these ghosts what for, and we're going to get them on camera. Here we go. They set up all the grids and they set up all the things. They do all the stuff. And, what do we got to go on? Their t-shirts match. They must know what they're doing. Surely this isn't producer driven. And surely they wouldn't make anything up to keep me watching through the next 20 minutes of this, because something's going to happen. And I think not everybody watches those like that. I think they like the people. They like the crew. They like the guys. They like how they go about stuff. And that's fine too. But you still don't get the same feeling. You see where I'm coming from? That you get when you watch what you just watched, beginning to end. And we even got the little caveat at the end. It's like, maybe she'll find some treasure. She's going to go look. Peter James gave her some clues. The ghosts are giving you code. Who knows what she'll find? And the cool part about sightings is if they found something, they come back and tell you. Even if it was, 6 years later. And that was the cool part. It got to be a comfortable place to be into the paranormal and anything extra dimensional or UFO related, alien related, the Mel's Hole stuff and, all that cool stuff. And it just had it left you with a better taste in your mouth. It wasn't, I watched that and I'm like, oh man, and I got to pick through all the drama and what did they make up? And did she really mean that? Because she didn't say that. That's what they showed me. And eventually when she's telling you one story and they're showing you something else, your mind eventually starts melding those two things together. And in your mind, in your memory, that's what you saw. That's what she saw. And she never said that. And that messes with your deductive mind and the way when you're trying to sort all this to learn, or sort all this to learn how to use your abilities better, or to sort all this just to be, because you want to believe in a story. And it's so hard now to look on the internet and go, wow, look at that brown lady, of who, I forget the name of the place. It's so famous and I forgot it, but coming down those stairs, look at that picture. You're not going to have what I had when I was a kid. And I looked at those books and I looked underneath and I saw the source. I was still doing it then. I'm like, oh, this guy took this picture and wow, it used to have like the little copyright underneath of it or have the date or whatever. And because, they put the photographer there and it was in a book and supposedly you weren't allowed to say something that something was real if it wasn't, especially in a book. I mean, it's in writing. It came out of a library. We had a little bit more cushion on our belief system then. We don't have that now. You open up a TikTok, you don't have a clue what you're looking at. You don't know if it's really that person. You got deep fakes, you got CGI, you've got AI, you've got you just keep naming letters because we got them. All sorts. We got an app for that. So you don't get that same comfort. So I guess what I want to leave you with tonight is you have this, and tonight you have a link to the Ghost Watch and you can go watch that and see why people were, I don't want to say they were flinging themselves out of windows like we supposedly heard happen in 1938 with War of the Worlds and Orson Welles. But Some bad things happen. So we are kind of late here, but I wanted to show you just real quick before we leave, just a little piece of one that we talk about all the time. And it doesn't get enough play, I don't think, because they just don't make them like this one. And since I talk about it all the time, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna let it play. So here we go.
Ordinary men and women who claim to have witnessed them, walked with them, even embraced them. Ordinary people who tell true stories of haunted lives.
Haunted Lives. Which one do you think it is?
When one thinks of ghosts, one imagines ruined castles or a lonely graveyard in the dead of night.
Name
But
that
recently,
voice.
psychic Sylvia Brown investigated a series of hauntings in a most unlikely location, an ordinary toy store in Sunnyvale, California.
This is a place in which they had lost, or reportedly had lost, 6 managers. So out of desperation, they called me and said, would you please come in because we think we have a ghost. It's a story of unrequited love, and not like some of the violence we see at other, let's say, ghost stories. It's sad, it's tragic.
This explains
It was the new
ghosts so
frontier
well.
of California, rarely
1881.
tamed by farms and orchards. The year was 1881. The season, spring.
Yanni Janssen.
Yanni Janssen was a barely literate, emotionally disturbed farmhand who lived for just one thing, his desperate love for his employer's daughter.
Elizabeth,
Yanni, you have to stop writing me these letters.
I don't mean to upset you,
You have. And if I told my father, he would ask you to leave.
but I love you.
And I love someone else.
I know I'm just a caretaker. I don't have very much to offer, but what riches I do have are in my heart.
I don't love you, Yanni. You have to understand that. I don't mean to hurt you, but I'm getting married in 6 days, and it's best that you forget about me.
Wait, you don't know me. You barely knew I existed till I wrote those letters. How do you know you don't love me?
I feel nothing for you.
I won't rest until you marry me. Elizabeth, don't go.
This short story explains ghosts so well. So well. It's so on point. This poor guy. How could you not help him? As a ghost. How could you say it's not my job to keep going back and coaching him through, talking him through, if you knew he existed and could do those
Time
things?
passes, as time will. What was once an orchard became a busy toy store, filled with the sounds of laughter, the hum of cash registers, and the presence of something else.
Jeez, that was an
something
army.
that cannot easily be put into words.
Hello? Is anybody there? Hello? Who's there?
Whoa, hold on. Where's the fire?
There's something back there.
Where?
In the storeroom. It touched me, and it said something.
Oh, what touched you?
Excuse me, are you the manager?
Yes.
There's something wrong with your bathroom. The water comes on by itself. I turned the faucet off, but it came back on again. I think you need a plumber.
Oh, I'll call one right away. Thank you.
May I please have the rest of the day off?
Oh, whatever it is that scared you back there, I'm sure there's a logical explanation for it. Come on, I'll show you. Oh, it's all in the storeroom. Nothing to be afraid of.
Okay, guys, we got a little problem. So I am putting the storeroom off limits for the next couple of days.
Rumor has it there's ghosts in the storeroom. Welcome to Ghosts R Us. Can I haunt you?
This is not a joke. And if you go around saying that there's a ghost, then we're liable to lose all of our customers. So until I can figure out exactly what this is, it's business as usual. Okay? Bill. Did you stack them like that?
No.
Toys R Us.
Hi, it's me. Margie and I are at the school library. We're trying to figure this thing out. And we just found out some really interesting information. A long time ago, some people named Elizabeth and Martin Murphy lived here in Sunnyvale. They had this hired hand named Yanni Janssen, who was killed in an awful accident. The spooky part is that all this stuff happened exactly where the store is now.
We also found a lady we think can help us. She's a psychic researcher. Her name is Sylvia Brown. She works with the police and really knows this area. She specializes in these kinds of cases. She's
Great.
supposed to be very professional. She may even know who the ghost is. We really think she can help us. What do you think?
I need her right away.
All right, we'll get in touch with her.
Uh-huh.
Look at the anger. What's the only thing on his mind?
I can tell this has all the signs of a real haunting.
What exactly is a haunting?
It's spirits that don't know they're dead, or they resist going towards the light. Sometimes it's just unfinished business, or they just don't want to go. You see, in this case, Yanni Janssen is in a time warp, and he really believes that he's still part of this Martin Murphy ranch.
So how long will he be doing this for?
Months, years, maybe.
Well, how do I get rid of him?
With a silver bullet.
Well, really, we have to convince him that he's dead.
That night, Sylvia Brown tried to summon the spirit of Yanni Janssen.
This is amazing. This
Yanni,
actually happened.
Are you with us?
Documented. Look. That's the, they had 3
Yanni,
different crews there.
Can you hear me? I can feel his presence now. It's getting stronger. He's coming towards us.
I can see him. He looks a lot like Casper.
He's coming around the corner now. Hello, Yanni. Come closer so we can see you. You're looking for someone. Her name is Beth. Elizabeth Murphy. Is this Martin Murphy's wife? No. This is his daughter. I'm sorry. No, she's not here. I know you loved her. She's very beautiful. Yes, I know how you can find her. She's on the other side. She's going towards the light. You have to go towards the light, Yanni. You have to go towards the light to find Beth. Yanni, go towards the light.
Thank you.
Hopefully he's gone.
Good job. Good night. Good night. Good job. Okay, drive safe now, okay?
There goes your alarm.
Is anybody here? Hello?
Gosh, remember Toys R Us? Man, they were wonderful. Well, there you go, guys. I'm telling you, it's different when you see these shows, and you get a lot of information. And I wanted to, before we close tonight, I wanted to say too, remember when she was in the library on the phone, what she was saying about Sylvia was true. She worked with the police. She had for years, decades, and solved a lot of really important cases. A lot of you're not going to hear about because they don't do that. So again, say what you will, but take that in consideration. We're looking at all these mediums because I know a lot of them really dedicate their whole lives to this, and understanding. So thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for hanging out with me. I know it's Father's Day and, everybody had plans, and I hope you did. I hope you spent it with your family and your friends and, somebody that maybe mentored you, or maybe spent it in the memory of that person, because we all kind of know a little bit different than a lot of people out there on the streets trying to deal with that kind of stuff. There's something on the other side. There's more to this. We see it night after night after night, story after story after story, and I think it's what an interesting world it is. And it's so much nicer having you guys in it. Thank you for being here with me tonight. Thank you so much. Loved everybody that couldn't be here, and I hope to see you tomorrow. I want to tell you what we're doing, but it depends on how much time I have to prepare for tomorrow, because, whether or not I have a couple hours or I have more than that. Steve and I are talking about it, but there's more to the 90s, and I'll tell you why. There are a lot of mysteries that happened, unsolved crimes and things like that. but big mysteries, big stories that I think in a lot of ways we've kind of swept under the table or just given up on, like John Bonet. I could get into that. Certainly can't get it on this channel, but there are always more to these stories. And I think in some ways, like I had no idea about Ghost Watch coming out of BC on Halloween night in 92. How did I not hear about this? You know, there's other things that slip by too. So there's a couple before we let go of the 90s I want to talk about, and one of them is a lot of deep research, and I've been doing that research. But the thing is I think it's going to be more than one episode, so I'm trying to fit it in because we've got a lot of cool guests coming up. Like I said, Ron Murphy's coming up. We got Conflict Radio coming on. We're gonna have a cool discussion. That's coming up. Couple other ones I don't want to say yet, just to be sure about timing and things like that. But talking to some interesting people, and that does take a lot of time, and it takes a lot of research, and might be a book I have to read or whatever. I do that for me. So there you go. Thank you for being here tonight. I got a little something to take you out. Do you believe in ghosts? If you do, I bet you really like the looking back at some of these 90s, because again, I say it, you're just not going to get the full buffet like you do, like they were dishing out in the 90s, beginning to end, soup to nuts, and in some cases a hug at the door before you go home and carry on, and you take that information with you, and it's there for you when you have those times of doubts where you think, man, it's just me against the world, or I'm in a matrix, or there's nothing I can do, and nothing I do can change things, when you know darn well you just change your vibration and it starts to change. And once, just like ghosts, when that crack of light comes through into that darkness, you know how to make it bigger. Just lean into it. You are the light. I love you all. Thanks for being here tonight. And I do believe in ghosts. How about you? Good night. Love you, Bobby. Thanks for being here. You too, D-Rock. Jack. That was fun, right? Carolyn. Thank you, Vixen Doe and Common Belief. Ian, thanks for being here. Thank you, Crimson. I know you had to go. Take some bacon with you, everybody. Echo, thanks for being here. Scott, I know you had to go to bed. Good night, love. Have a good one. Crimson, Bobby. Good night, everyone.